Hi. So, as you might know, when I draw or paint on my computer, I usually use Krita. And this you might also know, there is a new version, Krita 5, and it was released at the end of December 2021. And they made some changes to the brushes, specifically smudge brushes. You can read the release notes on Krita website if you want to see all the changes. But when I installed the new version, I realized that my presets were not saved. I made a few brushes and I also used a few standard ones and other brushes and I united them into one tag. So they all were grouped this way. And my brushes are still there, but I need to unite them into one group again. So I thought it's a good opportunity to talk about brushes I use and why, and show you how you can group your brushes if you need to. So let's create a new tag. I will call it Owl Paint. And in every software, I tend to use two basic brushes. They are usually there already in a standard set, so you don't need to create them. One of them is a big soft brush. The one I'm using in Krita is called Airbrush Soft. I right-click it and add to my tag. It's a big round soft brush, and when you press harder it becomes more opaque, which is very convenient. I use this brush mostly for painting gradients and also for occlusion shadows or soft lights and shadows. And the second brush I use all the time in any software. This is hard brush with opacity change, and the harder you press, the more opaque it is. In standard Krita brushes, this one is called Basic to Opacity, but I changed this one a bit and I'm using my version of it, which has an oval shape. I use this brush for painting. It's like the very basic brush. I can sketch with this brush, I can do a line art or fill basic colors. Also, if I want to paint with something more textural, I could just change the brush tip and brush tip in the settings, and that's it. And by the way, in Krita you can turn any brush into an eraser by pressing E on your keyboard, and you can go back by pressing B. Okay, now I prefer to keep my flat colors on a separate layer or in a group of layers. And to apply flat colors, you can use same brush of course, but so you don't have to press hard on your tablet every time to lay opaque colors, you can go to settings here and untick this. And this way you can use the same brush for it. But I prefer to have a separate brush for this. And in standard Krita brushes, it's Basic 1. This is a quick brush engine, which means in the settings here are not many options. And this is in order to make it work faster. So when I need to put base colors for my paintings, I prefer to use this brush. And this brush you can also use for line art. Just tick the size option here and you can adjust the curve as you like it. Or you can search for another brush for line art in ink section, for example. Next, sketching. I usually try to find a brush with a grainy texture like a pencil. So in any software, what I would do, I would just type pencil and search for it. Also, we can go to sketch section and look for a pencil there. But I made a brush for sketching myself, so I would use that. Okay, let's move on. For blending colors, make sure you choose all in brush presets and type blender. From the standard brushes, I used Blender Textured Soft. And there are a few more brushes I use. One of them is this. I made it myself, but I used a tutorial, an article on Krita website. I changed some settings there because the tutorial was slightly outdated when I made this brush. This article was called something like Paint Like a Sculptor, Cynic's Brush something, and it's a reference to one of the videos by Cynic's Design, which was called Paint Like a Sculptor. And in this video, Cynic's was using coral paint and his brush was working this way. It would give some amount of pigment at start, but after some time you would run out of paint and the brush would just be smudging your pigment. That's why I called this brush Cynic's the Sculptor, but it's my brush. I made it by following the tutorial. I love to use this brush to add color variation, like mixing one color into the other and blending it. And it's also very useful for painting. Okay, 2 more brushes. Sometimes I like to have a brush that has a small color shift. Not a crazy one like a rainbow pencil, but a brush with just a small tint change. So one has opacity change and the other one doesn't. They're not necessary must-have brushes, of course, but it helps to make things less boring sometimes. So this was my method to the madness of making a brush list, and these are brushes I would use for now. Now, my brushes, the ones I made, you can download them for free on the Gumroad. I will leave the link in the description. And if you download them and try them, please leave a comment, say if you like them or if something is not right, because it's the very first time I'm sharing my own brushes and I want to make sure that everything is okay. So that's it for today. Thank you for staying with me. Hope it was helpful and have a good time painting. See you next time. Bye.